Happy Marketers Friday. We are back just for a double episode, and we are continuing our Age of Authenticity talks as season 4 rolls on. So, first and foremost, Jess, we talked at the end of last episode a few days ago, radio voice. I told you that I was very proud that you were able to dig deep and still find those vocal cords under some duress. So, how are things going? How's radio voice? You making that comeback now?
I'm still digging deep. The plot thickens. We found out after Wednesday's episode that the culprit, it's not just a nasty preschool bug, it's RSV,
Mm,
which I don't know if you
it's a
know.
lingerer.
Yeah, it's a respiratory infection, and it's hit my both my girls' preschool. So my husband dropped off Penny on Wednesday's class, and we were told that 4 students are out
Mm,
with RSV. So we're like, this is it. So
yeah.
it's getting better every day, but it's still it's bad. We've never had it before, and I will say that this is worse than COVID.
No, I mean, we were right there, So for us, it was Thanksgiving was canceled this year because of neurovirus in the house. So we both said the same thing. We're like, that 24 hours might have been worse than when we had COVID. But, just again, this is a reminder, like 4 seasons, still haven't landed it yet. When are we going to get someone on that's a social media manager, marketer for like Mucinex or Robitussin? Like, I feel like that would be a phenomenal discussion to have on this program. Another reminder for us to do some outreach.
Totally. Yes. I'm all about I'm all about anything now because there's not much you can take to
Nope,
cure this.
it just
I've been
lingers.
told we've been running the humidifiers nonstop, but
Yep,
you're right. Anything. I'll take anything at this point.
anything. But today we are welcoming Tom Woodard onto the program for what I would say a both inspiring and awesome conversation. Tom, I was really excited when this show came to us and his topic came to us. He is the founder, executive producer of the newly developed the Ability Machine, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Also, founder of On the Avenue. So, Tom, important things to talk about today. Super happy to have you, and most importantly, happy Friday.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Happy Friday to you guys. Jess, I'm glad you're on the mend, hopefully. Gosh, that sounds awful. But take advantage of that great sounding voice you got there now, that
Yes,
grovelly little radio voice. I love it.
I know. We
In
do
fact,
some
that's what's calling right now.
Seattle grunge.
The Sally Kellerman voice. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, Tom, let's start off here for season 4. We have a theme that we're doing. So, you as a marketer, production, creative, we all know we're in a world of AI right now. And if you turn on LinkedIn, it's probably half of what you see in terms of what types of posts are being delivered, everyone's thought process on the world of AI. Tell us yourself how you are staying authentic in a world of AI on your day to day.
Yeah, as you can tell by the hair, I've been through a few changes through different tools that have been brought to the marketing game from the old days of a pen and paper, right? And so I would say AI is a great tool, and we're staying authentic by writing first, using the brain and the heart to write and create, and then letting AI be a good tool to check and bring ideas and things to once the idea is baked a little bit. So I'm a big fan of identifying audience, creating message, and I think it has to be authentic. I think people are going to start seeing, we're already starting to be able to tell when something's really written by a human being and when something is created by AI. And I know it's going to get better and better and better. But we work with folks with disability. And so, in a weird way, it gives them a tool that they may need in order to create things. So, I think we're staying authentic by keeping human first. And I think that's really important in this day and age.
I love this. So, Tom, tell us more about how you identify audiences or how do you connect with them to gain that deeper understanding?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll take you back, if that's okay, to the beginning of my sort of career and where I started. I started in advertising and marketing in the jingle world. I started a while back. I mean, as you can tell, I'm a little long in the tooth, but we back in the '80s, I started in the jingle business, and it started with a company here in Nashville. And I was told by the guy that owned the company, before you write something, you've got to make sure you understand who you're writing it to. And I think so many times as marketers, we want to say what the brand wants us to say. And we got all this stuff and it's coming from the brand. And we forget that the audience is the one, or the customer, or the ultimate customer is the one that really needs to engage with that. And so I sort of started that a long time ago, about several years ago, obviously, and I've just always maintained that. So and his example was, if you're going to do a Depends commercial, you want to be an old guy. If you were doing back in the day, a Toys R Us commercial, and we did a lot of those at the day, you had to be a kid. And so I think it's really putting yourself in the shoes of the consumer and looking at the brand and the need through the eyes of the consumer. I think that's really important before we write message one, or think about the medium that might reach them.
So, Tom, you let us in just a little bit here. Let's dig deeper. Tell us about start of your career, decades in the industry, working up to what you're doing now, which we're going to dig very deep into today with the Ability Machine on the Avenue, helping those with disabilities succeed in the world of marketing. How does this all come together, and to who you are now and what we're doing in the present day?
Well, Andy, I blame God and give him all the credit every day. And so we'll leave it at that as a start point. But yeah, I was born and raised in Nashville. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I was born and raised here, and stole my dad's guitar when I was 8 and started writing songs. And I think that's a law here in Nashville, that you got to start writing songs. And that led me later through, I was in theater, growing through high school and college and all of that. And when I got out, I knew I wanted to be a songwriter. And then I found out about these little 30-second songs that you could write. And I ended up meeting a guy on a Friday night that says, "Hey, I do jingles," and that's what we used to call them. And he said, "You ought to come to work for me sometime." Well, I was in retail, and I quit my job the next day and showed up at his doorstep on Monday. And he goes, "Did I hire you?" And I was like, "Yeah, you did." And he said, "Well, if you can sell it, I'll let you write it." And so that was my first real cross between creativity and commerce right there. And so within a couple of weeks, I sold a jingle and had an amazing career in that. I was blessed to work with people from Miami to Portland to Boston to San Diego and all over the country. And my job was to go into the agency, work with the writer creative teams, writer art director teams, and be there at the inception of the concept. And then obviously our goal was to pull them back to Nashville to do the music. And then we opened Chicago offices and blah, 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 kind of grew that. But it taught me a whole lot about the ad agency, marketing, communications world. And I fell in love with it. And I worked on creative floors. We've all been the big agencies where you walk up and down and you've got the very executive floor, and then you got the floor with the punching bags and the ping pong table and all that. Well, that's where I spent my time. And we were talking baseball a little earlier, and my job was to take guys to the game and then go back and work on campaigns afterwards. So
yep, that's the
closer. I say all that to say it gave me an interesting window on the creators and creativity. And so that was kind of my career. I had like I said, had a really blessed career through that. And then in 2001, right about then, jingles sort of took a back seat, and real music started sneaking in. Nike used Revolution by the Beatles. Burger King had some disco stuff come out, and we knew we were in trouble. We knew the jingle business was in trouble. So I shifted my thoughts after a little while and helped build a couple of ad agencies here in Nashville, and helped do that, built an agency here. And then my brother and I started a little company on the side working with guys with disability, packing boxes and fulfillment and all that. And I got mad at myself. I'll share this real quick story. I got mad at myself that someone with a disability could only pack a box, clean a table, or maybe stock a shelf or something. And so we had this little box packing business on one side of this warehouse we had as our agency, and the other side everybody was creating and having fun. And I got mad and walked out on the floor and said, "Guys, what would you do if you came to work at the agency?" And one guy goes, "Hey, I'm making a movie with a drone." And the other guy was writing a book, and another guy drew a little illustration in about 30 seconds. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So I bought 4 iMacs, put them on the back wall, and started paying those guys to show up at the creative table with us. And it was amazing. It was really a blessed moment. We saw confidence built. We saw community come out. And I just really realized that creativity really helped to build confidence and community in these individuals with disability. And I also realized that these guys with autism and intellectual disabilities were very much like the guys I had worked with on those floors I was talking about. And back in the 80s, they weren't diagnosing you with autism or Asperger's or any of that. It was just, hey, you're a creative guy or whatever. Miss Walker just told me in first grade I talk too much. And so I really felt at home. And we started letting guys sit at the creative table with us, and it was amazing. And so that built a little program that we have called On the Avenue, which is a daytime studio where people come to use creativity to build confidence and community. And then I decided about a year ago, through the help of a PR firm here in Nashville, amazing group called Raven Public Relations. And I had the words "the ability machine" written on my board when they came to visit On the Avenue one day. And they said, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, if I ever start my agency up again and really get it going and get intentional about hiring people with disability, that's what it'll be." And that was about a year ago. And Matt and Holly challenged me to do that. And so we did. And they brought to Lewis Communications to the table. They did a brand for us and built the website, and we worked with them. And so about, I'm going to guess, a couple months ago, I guess now, we launched the Ability Machine, and it has been unbelievable. It's turned from a labor of love to having real jobs, real stuff, real table, and so that's kind of the backstory of all that, Andy. Maybe too long, but that gives you the journey of where I came from stealing my dad's guitar to sitting there today, working with guys on real world advertising.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I love this idea that you're creating the space for the creativity to shine through. And I think this applies to anyone. Like, we all need more of this. I talk about this all the time with Andy on the podcast. I'm a big believer in we are all creative. We're just in a stage, especially as we get in adults, we've been trained to have to come to the table with one right answer. And that is absolutely not the case, but we're all creative. You don't have to be in a creative discipline to express your creativity. So I'm curious, since this really applies to anyone, like how can anyone like start this work, really start tapping into their creativity? Is it space or environment? Like where would you have people start?
Rick Rubin has a terrific book out about creativity right now. It's a hard read because it's Rick, a great producer, but it's an amazing book. And he talks exactly about that, Jess. It's about how you get to work, how you lay out your living room, how you whatever can be creative, what you have for breakfast. I mean, it doesn't matter. We all are creative beings. I think it does come in giving yourself space. We are so busy. We are so consumed. We are so stimulated, and I think creativity is it comes from boredom, and I don't think enough humans allow ourselves to become bored and sit there and listen to nothingness, and then something pops in there. And I think that's creativity is all around us, and you can't tap into it if you're totally stimulated. And so these things right here are awful, and they need to be put away for a while. And so I think listening, and then I think it comes from the heart. I think if you literally get out of your head and get into your heart and let that listen to the world around you, or the spirits around you, that's where creativity comes from. But I really believe creativity is the mother, that boredom is the mother of creativity.
Let's dig into the creativity you're bringing to the table right now with the Ability Machine, Tom. So my wife, she is a mental health professional, and I thank her so much for teaching me a lot about both the creativity that we see in folks who are neurodivergent, some of the pitfalls like of systems and struggles and the different things that go along with it. She's a large voice of this population. It's like something that I've tried to bring to the table with the marketing work that I do as well. Um, I feel like as a society, we're getting a little bit more of a handle of just like understanding things like ADHD. Like, why is it diagnosed in people in their 30s versus when they're kids? Like, simple things like that. Tell me your perspective. Do you feel like the general population is starting to understand this more, or is kind of what you're doing with the ability machine, is it bringing it more to the table? Like, how do we get it so people that are dealing with neurodivergencies have more of that shot in the marketing room? Like, how do we get there and continue the good word that we're doing today?
Yeah, I think so. I'll throw a couple of things out there. I think it is getting better. We started this about 12 years ago, where we were hiring people with disability and coming in, and mainly intellectual disabilities, and created a neurodivergent place to work. It's hard. And I think we have this zero sum game. You can either work in a 40-hour work job and do this, and this is what you're going to do, or you're out. And if you can't step up and work 40 hours a week, then that doesn't work. And what we found is that doesn't work. And we're not going to train away a disability. We're not going to train away someone's neurodivergence. It's not going to happen. And so we have to learn to adapt to that. And so what I would say is somebody asked me one time, how do you become a songwriter? And I was like, you write a song. And so what I would say is bring someone neurodivergent to the table and listen to their window. Don't listen to the way they present it, because they're going to be awkward in how they present it. Listen to the window and what they're saying, not how they're saying it. And so we have a place, our studio is we have sofas everywhere. So if you need to lay down and take a nap, lay down and take a nap. You might have had a bad night and lost sleep, or your meds aren't right, or something's going that's not quite right. And you have to allow for that. And in the business world, we all know that sounds good. Oh yeah, let's hire guys with disability and bring them in, and then you get in the boardroom and go, hey, wait a minute, we're not producing like we should produce, whatever that is we're producing. And so I think the business world, in a bottom line business world, doesn't allow for missing a deadline, doesn't allow for failure, doesn't allow for that. And I think you have to in this. I think life demands that. I can't tell you how many times I've failed in life, but it's not when you fail, it's when you get back up and move on to the next thing. And so we allow in our environment, if you can do 10 to 15 to 20 to 30% of the work, we'll take it from there. There may be days when you walk in, hey, how many days have you come to work where it's like, I'm giving you 100% today? Well, the next day you might be 30%. It might not feel great. Jess, you might, be a little off your game on that. So we realize that in everyone else. Why can't we realize that in the neurodivergent world? And so I think it's the allowance for not being able to do 100% of the work, Andy. That's kind of what I would say. And allowing for some failure, and allowing for just being at the creative table. Not every guy I ever worked with got the campaign. They would compete, lose, compete, win. And so why are we saying if you can't be at that table in 100%, then don't be at the table at all? And we disagree with that 100%.
Tom, you are really speaking my language here. Because failure is where I talk a lot about creativity, and my second topic of choice is the fear of failing. I really want to know, like, what is like one of the biggest aha moments you've learned or you've observed when you put people in that position and that they get that chance to fail?
I'll give you an example. Before the Ability Machine started, On the Avenue was simply a daytime, I hate this term, but program. No adult wants to go to a program, and no adult wants to go to school. They want to go to work, and they want to go have meaningful, purposeful days. And so we had a young man that was nonverbal. He would get in situations and just lock up. He had spoken before. His parents had heard him speak, but he would get in situations and just totally lock up. And we dig to find a passion, and his passions were, strangely enough, Florida agriculture and Russian history, a normal combo, right? And his dad was like, he's just not ever going to talk to you guys, so just get used to that or whatever. So we had him we asked him what medium he liked, and we found out it was a PowerPoint. So we said, I want you to go create a PowerPoint. This was my aha moment about Russian history and Florida agriculture. And so he did. And then we took him back in our studio and we pointed a camera at him, and he started talking to us and presenting his PowerPoint to us. So he had a crutch there that he could then have some confidence in, and he started talking to us. And his dad came to pick him up that night. We were like, hey man, you want to see something? And we showed him the video, and his dad just starts bawling. And it wasn't us, it wasn't magic. I'm not a counselor, we're not therapists. We were just creatives that wanted to love people like God loves us. And that's where this whole thing started. And so the aha moment was giving someone a chance that had been told they couldn't do it or shouldn't do it or won't do it, to fail. And if he hadn't spoken, we would have seen a little PowerPoint and learned more about Florida agriculture and Russian history. But that moment unlocked a door to him. The next year he was in college at one of our local universities, Lipscomb University, in a certificate program. And it was just beautiful to see that journey open up and his confidence come out and make friends and all of this. And his father was a Marine who was kind of hard and da-da-da-da. But that moment was just a real aha moment that we were not only serving that adult, we were serving their whole family. And it became this beautiful moment. And that really motivated us to keep going, because it's not an easy cross, right? It's not an easy day sometimes. And you deal with things that aren't your normal, just, hey, the client needs this, and this is the message today. It's all these other things that kind of pop in. But that was a real aha moment for me, that things that we don't normally think can happen. And so that I would say that was one of my big aha moments for sure.
So that leads in perfectly, Tom. I'll tell you a story, and one I'll tell occasionally. Like, I don't know, I probably haven't told you this, Jess, but one thing that I got hit with a diagnosis, Tom, in third grade was I literally couldn't do handwriting. You know how when kids, like, they can't, like, you see the letters, just to trace the letters, you can't write them. I'd turn my papers in. I kind of laugh at this all the time to my teacher, and she's like, I don't know what the heck Andy is like writing right now. So that prompts like a whole lot of tests. Like, why is he not developing handwriting skills? So one of the things I was diagnosed with was visual processing disorder, which is simply, it's not super common, but simply what it is if you look at something. So the best way to describe it is if you're watching like a YouTube video and they're like showing you like how to construct something, you have trouble like taking the visuals, processing it, and doing it. So like you have to learn a little differently. So like the teacher said after that came out, it's not something that will hinder like your learning, but you have to think about it in a different way. So like for me, the way that I've always been a marketer, like going forward, it's something you can like learn new skills and coping mechanisms, but it's not something necessary you just get rid of. It just doesn't go away. So like for me, like if I'm presented something in a marketing room and there's like a visual on a screen, Andy go and repeat that is very hard for me to do. So I have to build this like process around like how I do it. So most of my marketing career, this is for better or worse, in agencies, I've been called the machine, which is not a good thing, Tom, to be called in an agency, because I said Andy produces work quick, it's accurate, it's a little quirky, it's a little different. Sometimes you don't know where he's going with it. I had a manager said, just let him go do his thing. And a lot of times letting me go do my thing is I just see the world a little bit different. And sometimes for me, kind of what you're talking about, Tom, if I have to like read instructions on a screen or follow an instructional video or see something visual, I have to mess up 4 or 5 times. But once I got it, I got it. And it's so important for people in the marketing room to have patience, because like I feel like at times I've been viewed as a top performer in different areas, but little do they know how much I have to mess up to get there. So I just want to say thank you for what you do. And then also, I'm sure you see this with your work and your team. Like how important, again, is it to have different learning styles and let people get to where they need to be?
Yeah, I just think it's the most important thing ever. It's funny, when we started on the Avenue, Andy, we built a boat. Our first class was a photography class, and I was like, hey, everybody, grab your phone or grab a camera. We had a bunch of cameras in the studio. So let's go out. We're going to take pictures of buildings. And so everybody went out, and I thought, traditional education, you're going to be a 101, a 201, a 301, a 401, and everybody's going to matriculate together. Well, we got back from taking pictures, and half the people hadn't gotten their pictures. They didn't know how to turn their phone on. You had all these levels of learning. And so what I realized was we couldn't build one boat to float in the river called On the Avenue. I had to have a river called On the Avenue and build a boat for each individual. And everybody says, oh, hey, if you met one person with autism, or you met one person with whatever, you've met one person. I'm like, if you've met one person, you've met one person. We're all different, and we all learn differently, diagnosed or undiagnosed. And so I think another aha moment, Jess, was when we realized we had to build a boat for everyone. And we created a curriculum around that called assignment-based learning, where we give each person something about that they can do with their passion, and we marry that with a medium that they can excel at. And that's the curriculum inside our daytime studio. And so once we saw that start to translate in some people's worlds to where it was like, wow, they can really do that. I mean, they actually built a website. They actually shot film. They actually edited something that worked. Then that's when you can matriculate them over to the creative table and bring them into work. So I think kind of going in that order, Andy, we didn't start this first and then we went back and built a program. The program led us into, wow, this really could work. And it has. It's been amazing to watch. I don't know if that answered your question.
You did. I love it.
Okay, I'm gonna be the venture capitalist here, and I'm gonna say, okay, Tom, how do we scale? How do we scale this accessibility?
Yeah, it's that magic question, right? I'll give a weird analogy. I've been walking. I have a little thing where I walk every day, and I share a Bible verse, blah, blah, blah. And it's called Walk with Uncle Woody. And I was going through a period of life about 4.5 years ago where I needed how do I fix some things I was in? And somebody said it's one step at a time. And so I started walking, and I've literally walked 1,705 days in a row, at least a mile. I haven't missed a day through COVID and ice and on different cities and whatever. And I think it's realizing that we can't fix this overnight. It's not an old bewitched magic nose twitch and it's fixed. It's a one step at a time program, one individual at a time program. I'm an old bleeding heart, and I want to change the world. Some of us are born and we think we're supposed to go change the world. And what I realized is I couldn't change the world. So how do we do this? One human being at a time, one step at a time, one conversation, one campaign at a time. And then, so I think that's it. The scalability of this thing is not being afraid to try something. I'll tell you this quick story, Jess. Maybe this will illustrate it. I've been a part of the advertising community in Nashville for, as you heard earlier, a long time. And so a lot of my good friends are the owners of the agencies. And when we had On the Avenue, I called them all and said, I'd like to put an On the Avenue desk in your office. And I'd like to send you on Thursday or Friday, someone from one of our citizens, as we call them, and have the citizens come and sit in your office and be a part of your team that day. And everybody was like, oh, it's a great idea. And about 7 months went by and crickets. And so I called one of them on the phone, and I took him to lunch, and I said, what's up, man? What? You thought this was such a good idea. And he said, Tom, you're telling me you're going to send me someone with a disability that I have to bring into my world and care for that day. And they're not ready to do that. And then that really was a good impetus for the birth of the Ability Machine, because what we do is we handle that, and we come in as a team helping people with disability inside a traditional agency that may not be set up for this. We have a quiet room and dimming lights and sound machines and we're prepared for that individual, and they're not. And so I think over time, people will adapt to this and find that, Andy, as you said, the window is important. Your window that you bring is your creativity, and that is what makes you uniquely different from the account team, from the biz dev team, from the production team. And I think that once we start to see that happen, or realize that it has already been happening, that's when we're going to see real change and success. And I'm already seeing it in the last few months with the people that have reached out, just like you guys, wanting to talk about this. And I've been asked to come to an Access conference up in Toronto, and it's unbelievable. The desire is there. I think there's a fear. I think there's a fear in it. We don't know the words to use, and we don't know the right thing to say. We don't care. I tell every parent of their adult that brings them, we're going to mess up every day. We're going to beg your forgiveness and grace for the way we say something or the way we do it. We're so afraid that it's going to mess up, and guess what? We're going to mess up. We're fallible human beings running around the planet. So I think that willingness to mess up and beg forgiveness, and if you do it in love and kindness, I think it's going to be okay. So I think we can build this one individual at a time.
So, Tom, I am going to switch gears on us here because there is a cool story about you that was sent through, and I was like, we cannot complete this podcast without talking about it. And that has to do with someone voicing over a Budweiser frog. So we need the story of how this came about, and I thought about it. I'm almost positive I know exactly which ads we're talking about here.
Well, Andy, you time machined it, dude. There's a lot of people probably watching this that have no idea what you're talking about. In the heart of our jingle business, we had studios here in Chicago, in Nashville and Chicago, and I had done a lot of music in St. Louis for Budweiser. Some friends of mine were at DDB Needham at the time, Darcy Macias, DMB&B at the time in St. Louis. And we had done a bunch of music tracks for them, blues tracks, different things, and it was great. And one day I get a call from Mike Smith and Dave Swain, again, an art director, writer team at DMB&B. And they said, hey, man, can you make a frog say Budweiser? And I lived on a farm, actually at the time, and outside of Nashville. I had a 3-acre pond with frogs on it. I'm like, yeah, actually I can. I know exactly what that's supposed to sound like. So I built a little audio track. And Dave sent me a script. It was the funniest script I've ever gotten. Just little syllables. Bud, bud, wise, bud, It was. I was like, is this a script? So we said it just like that. Put in a little digital editor and popped it off to them. And they took that and 3 pencil drawings into August Bush's office and sold in a campaign. And it was going to be, this is a funny little anecdote, Andy. It was going to be one of many things throughout history and throughout time where the words Budweiser were a part. Little Pond, New York City traffic, building of the pyramids, Bud, and all these things. And then the frogs hit in 95, fall of 94, we produced that. Got to go work with Stan Winston, who developed animatronics and did Jurassic Park in Congo. And it led me into a whole world. Got to work with Gore Verbinski, who eventually did all the Pirates movies of the Caribbean, and it opened up this whole world of huge stuff that we were doing small jingles and regionals and some national work, but nothing like that. And yeah, man, it was amazing. And then it hit the Super Bowl in January of '95. And took off, and we ran 7 years, and it was amazing. We had lizards trying to kill us, and ferrets, and all kinds of stuff, and it was an amazing journey, humbling, amazing. I realized the impact of advertising and the responsibility of advertising when it starts to impact that many things, and we're blessed enough to still be voted one of the top 10 commercials of the Super Bowl of all time. So it's up there with Mean Joe Green. So it's been a cool calling card for me. And what I learned from it was always answer the phone, always, and do what they ask you to do. And you never know where that's going to lead.
Jess and we just had, Tom, why we had to ask this, we just had an episode on this as a whole other topic, but it was, what happened to the Super Bowl commercials? Like the memorable ones, like the ones you memorize, you just remember for decades. When I heard your voice and I heard the story about Budweiser Frog, Tom, right away, I knew it. Like, I know that commercial. I was 6 years old in 1995. I know that commercial. I saw commercials 2-3 weeks ago. I don't remember what the heck they were. So, like, big props to Budweiser. I can go straight back to that. So I know, Jess, you were thinking the same thing as you were hearing this from Tom.
Well, that and also, we had the Olympics running the last 2 weeks, and my daughters were watching the commercials, watching the Olympics, and I go into another room and I find my daughters singing, drive your Chevrolet in the USA," like singing the jingle. I don't know if you'd consider that a jingle, but from this commercial, and like that had they keep singing it, so I'm wondering, Tom, just do you think in the world that we're in right now, like are jingles primed to make a comeback?
I think so. I mean, I think what happened was advertisers just said, look, we're going to buy into the equity that a song has. Nike's going to buy in and say, look, if we can attach ourselves to the Beatles, it's going to sell more shoes. But that jingle you're talking about is an old jingle. I don't know if you know that. That is a remake of the original jingle.
Nostalgia.
It's not a new thing. It was a bring back from the old days, and then that was pre-Heartbeat of America. That's the days Chevrolet. That was the precursor to that, and so I think they will. It takes, I mean, if you're going to spend $10 million on a media buy, you're going to get the equity in America anyway. So I'm a huge fan. I think music. We could talk about creativity, but I believe music moves us. Go watch Jaws without the audio, or go watch anything without the soundtrack, and it's just not the same. It's what gives you the goosebumps. It's what makes you cry. It's what makes you laugh sometimes even. And so I love it that your girls are running around the house singing it. I hope it makes a comeback, and so I just believe in audio. That's where I started. Still love it. I think it makes things better. It really does.
So, Tom, we are right at time right here. So I'm going to leave you with one last question as we wrap up. So we talked a lot about marketing world today, marketing world of yesterday's. When I look at marketing world today and I look at my LinkedIn, I see a lot of people like debating things like even like we're debating Super Bowl commercials. What I always say at the end of the day when it comes to creative marketers in a room, I just want to hear the whys. Like we're not all going to 100% agree or disagree with different things, but that's what makes us creative marketers. I feel like it's almost in this world of production, like fast paced, results oriented. It's made it a little harsh. The days are a little harsher these days, Tom, when it comes to marketers. I see them going at each other too much. But I want to hear stories like this, where we're bringing our creativity to the room and what you're doing right now with the Ability Machine. Curious, how, as a marketing community, do we get back to talking about being creative, being inclusive, bringing those voices to the room and have positive discussions like we had today?
Yeah, there's an old saying of, you live in a no but or a yes and I think yes and is the start of all of this. And I'm also a believer in, this goes back to my old songwriting days. There's nothing more impactful than sitting in a room with someone, basically getting naked together, and just telling them about yourself and sharing and seeing that reaction. My wife calls it the nonverbal cues. And I think we've got to get back to being in person. I love this format. This has been fun this morning. But I think there's something about sitting at, and I called it earlier, the creative table, and being there together and sharing and taking and building on the next thing. And so I think what we have to remember is, with all the digital tools and all of this stuff, there still needs to be a human connection in this. And that's where the best messaging comes from. That's where the best wordsmithing comes from. That's where the best ideas come from. And that's still a shared experience, not just a quick, fast production that's knocked out and getting the message out. I think there's got to be a feel to it.
I love it, Jess. Yes, and he said Jess's favorite phrase there. So there's not a better way to end this podcast.
Yes, and I am starting to use no more with
Yeah, you
two
are.
preschoolers. No has become a very powerful word, but
Yes.
a word. But I love yes and.
But
Agreed.
Tom,
thank you guys very much. First off, for having us on. Thank you for shining a light on this, and thank you for the messaging that you give out every time on this podcast. I really appreciate the invitation.
it's definitely a huge thank you for coming on today, Tom. Goodbye. So just to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes, great to have Tom on today for the show. I feel like kind of bouncing off our last conversation that we had earlier this week and teaching, what we talked about with the D school. I think it's just so important that we bring that element, to the table, to bring creativity out, to bring originality out. I think like these two episodes tied together so beautifully. Like I feel like we've mic dropped it. And I think just a huge thank you to everyone for being able to have these conversations.
Yes, we mic dropped.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Your internet might have mic dropped.
I don't like to boast, but this was although I'm, really struggling here, that having 2 episodes this week, this was a beautiful through line and so key, and just really reinforcing again. We're playing it as marketers, as people in business. We're playing it way too safe, and this time more than ever, we really have to dig deep to unlock our creativity. And we all have this ability, and we all have this creativity, and it needs to come out now more than ever.
Most definitely, Jess. Well, I will leave us at that with your mic drop to end us here. Again, give Tom Woodard a follow, The Ability Machine. See what he's doing over there as this thing starts to build over time. I know we'll be watching from afar, and then hopefully say hello to next time in Nashville. It's been a while. So until then, thank you all, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Bye.